You might want to pause before you butter that toast. One of the most common butters on the shelf is just margarine in a butter costume, and it barely melts when you turn up the heat. Let's start with the waxy offender that fails the basic butter test, then work through 7 brands using cheap oil blends, misleading labels, and bland flavors. Stick around for the 2 butters that actually deliver rich taste, clean ingredients, and better baking results. Quick favor before we move on. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 92% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So did you subscribe already? Great, thank you so much for your support. Now back to the video. Your pan will tell on your butter. Set a pat in a warm skillet and watch. If it sits there glossy and waxy instead of pooling and turning nutty brown, you are not cooking with butter. You are dealing with a vegetable oil blend dressed up as dairy, and your food will taste like it. Let's start with the at-home test. Slice a cold piece. Drop it in a pan set to medium heat. Real butter loosens fast, liquefies, throws a quick foam, then the color deepens and the smell turns toasty. Now swipe a separate piece on warm toast. Real butter soaks in and leaves a golden stain.
It looks, smells, and tastes like the butter we're all familiar with, without the farmland, fertilizers, or emissions tied to that typical process.
In the middle of an industrial park in a suburb west of Chicago, something unprecedented is happening. The company is called Savor, and you better believe it. Their pioneering tech uses carbon and hydrogen to make the stick of butter you see on this plate.
So you're using this gas right now to cook your food, and we're proposing that we would like to first make your food with that gas.
Imposters beat up, skate across the bread, and smear like lipstick. You get sheen without flavor. And that's the tell. Here is the head scratcher. The label says butter. The shelf sign says butter. The price looks like butter. So why does it refuse to melt clean or taste like anything but grease? Because the game on that aisle is packaging. If the front screams butter, the back panel can whisper the truth with a long list of oils and emulsifiers. You pay for cream and get a costume. Take the brand that loves a crown and blue wrap. Imperial wants you to think butter dish, but it moves like margarine. The texture is plasticky out of the fridge. It melts slow, sizzles weak, and vanishes in a hot pan so your eggs slide in oil instead of browning in butterfat. On toast, the flavor goes quiet as soon as heat hits it. If you have ever spread it and wondered where the taste went, there's your answer.
Moving on in international news, Bill Gates is backing a new kind of butter, one that doesn't come from cows, crops, or even cooking oil. In Batavia, Illinois, a company is now producing butter from thin air using carbon and hydrogen, but it's made from lab-produced fat, water, a small amount of lecithin as an emulsifier, and natural flavor and color. Scientists are saying that it generates 0 greenhouse gases and uses minimal land and water resources. A process that completely removes farmland, fertilizers, and emissions from the equation entirely. Now the startup claims the finished product looks, smells, and tastes like the butter we're used to.
Here is the real kicker. There is a legal standard for butter. To be butter, it must come from cream and hit at least 80% milk fat. That fat ratio is what gives you quick melt, clean flavor, and structure in baking. Blends sneak around this by mixing plant oils with a touch of dairy or flavor, then parking themselves in the same shelf space. They look the part, but they do not have the fat profile to act like butter under heat. Now look at those tubs with big leafy graphics and promises, with olive oil or plant-based. Country Crock and its cousins lean on that olive leaf, but the bulk is cheaper seed oils. That swap changes how they behave. You get a soft spread straight from the fridge, sure, but in a pan it stays slick and flat. Mouthfeel turns thin. The flavor sits on your tongue instead of blooming. And when you bake, you will notice it in how cookies spread and how pie crusts refuse to flake.
This is pretty novel to be able to make food that looks and tastes and feels exactly like dairy butter, but with no agriculture whatsoever.
And no long ingredient list the average person can't pronounce. They tell me to simplify, they take carbon dioxide from the air and hydrogen from water, heat them up and oxidize them. The final result?
It looks like a wax, like a candle wax at first. It's really just our fat, some water, a little bit of lecithin as an emulsifier, and some natural flavor and color.
How? Fats are made up of carbon and hydrogen chains. The goal here? Replicate those chains without animals or plants.
Why does this happen? Real butter is a simple emulsion: milk fat, a little water, and milk solids. Those solids brown. The water flashes to steam and lifts batters. Plant oil blends cut out those parts, so there is no foam, no browning signals, no steam lift. It is like trying to build a sandcastle with dry sand. It holds a shape for a second, then slumps. Test it tonight. Line up what is in your fridge. 1 cube will pass. Several may fail. In cookies, the fakes bake into wide, limp discs. On toast, you get a saline, oily aftertaste and a shiny surface that never soaks in. In a skillet, the bubbles never form, and your sauce refuses to tighten. If this gave you something to chew on, hit like, subscribe and share it with someone who keeps blaming their oven. Want a quick win? Drag a room temp knife across the stick. If it leaves a waxy film that clings, that is a red flag. Spread a thin layer on warm bread. If it skates and gleams but refuses to absorb, skip it. Your sauces will emulsify cleaner with real butter. Your bakes will hold shape. Your sauté will brown on cue instead of stewing. Now let's move on to the part that matters in the cart.
The company is currently supplying restaurants and bakeries with plans to expand to wider retail markets in the coming years. But as Nigeria grapples with growing concerns over genetically modified foods and the influence of foreign-backed innovations, the question is it going to complement local Nigerian farming and empower farmers, or slowly edge it out and disenfranchise them? This latest development raises important questions. Is this the future of sustainable food production? Or another change to approach with caution? In the context of Nigeria, if this butter is able to be locally produced, it could reduce our reliance on imported dairy. We'll take 2 tweets. Emilia Henderson says, Bill Gates wants you to ditch real butter for carbon cooked cup in a lab. They are feeding you chemicals while killing farming.
We are pulling back the wrapper on 7 brands that lean on plant oils, vague labels, and bland results, and the 2 that earn their keep with real melt, real foam, and real flavor. Real butter clears 3 checks. In a pan, it melts clean and throws a soft foam. On a knife, it feels silky, not waxy. On your tongue, it has real taste, not a flat, oily film. Oil-laced spreads leave gloss and regret. If this saved you a bad bake, like and subscribe to help us keep the spotlight on the food industry's best-kept secrets, and share this with the friend who wonders why their cookies go flat. Trust your pan more than the package. Watch the melt, the foam, the taste. Do that, and your next grocery run gets simpler and cheaper in the long run.